Okay, guys, welcome back to DSP versus the Internet, episode 61. We are now in part 2, and we are continuing on with Ultra member submissions. Let's see what else people had here. So, are these games taking over the industry? Let's see what kind of games that they're talking about.
Very interesting year for gaming. It seems as if almost every month, a brand new game drops out of seemingly nowhere.
This was only 13 days ago, by the way. And I think I'm going to agree with this person. Let's see.
And completely takes over social media. Power World, Helldivers, and most recently, Content Warning. The success of these smaller titles feels bigger than it has ever been. These titles, especially the former two, have been taking over gaming. But why is it happening? Indie successes have existed as long as indie games have been easily accessible, and them blowing up is nothing new. Before Helldivers and Power World, we had Among Us and Fall Guys. And before Among Us and Fall Guys, we had Stardew Valley. Sprinkle in some Super Meat Boy, Phasmophobia, and heck, even Minecraft was originally an indie project. The point is, indie games and lower budget titles being awesome is nothing new. However, it's seeming like more and more the mainstream is starting to take to these games, which I believe is 100% due to the state of AAA games.
Like that piece of shit. Fucking Suicide Squad. Exactly right. This guy's dead on correct so far.
In the past year or so, we have seen massive changes in the AAA space. Tons of layoffs and even many studios shutting their doors for good. And while some of this can be attributed to the greed or overhiring practices, the simple matter of the fact is that AAA games are getting increasingly more expensive to create. One flop or poorly received game can completely cripple a studio, even one that had been healthy for many years. And even a game that does just okay isn't guaranteed to make back its development costs. This has led to what we have seen over the past handful of years in terms of the ways games try to monetize. It truly feels like it's all about profit. Games are becoming more and more monetized.
Dude, the guy's video quality is great. He went to his camera, it's choppy. What happened? His video quality is really good in what he edited. But then his camera is really bad. He should improve his camera quality. Like, why is the frame rate so low?
To the point that sometimes it feels like we're more just playing an algorithm designed to keep us playing and spend more money on microtransactions rather than, just playing the game and having fun. Just launch up any AAA modern live service game and you'll quickly see what's front and center. The store. In many cases, these additional microtransactions have even taken the place of actual gameplay additions, as from a publisher point of view,
look at this shit.
Post-release, this is where the big bucks comes from. Games no longer sell you a DLC pack, but instead sell you a skin pack that honestly sometimes can cost more for a single skin or a single pack of skins than an entire DLC map pack did back in the day, which is absolutely insane when you just stop to think about it. This is where our recent blow up of indie darlings comes into play. Rather than feeding you slop in order to get you into their shop, these developers are delivering exactly what gamers want. Dumb fun that you can just enjoy. No worrying about how SBMM is ruining your lobby, or how the season pass is extremely grindy, or how they're trickling out content to get you to come back. Just sit back and enjoy the game and have some fun. And as we have seen, the key to massive success seems to be building these games around playing with a few friends. Outside of the looter shooter live service games, in many cases, AAA gaming has gone away from the co-op experiences and instead focused either just on single-player games or a normal multiplayer/looter shooter model. However, the simple 4-player co-op PvE style of game, or even just a game that you can casually enjoy with your friends, seems to be completely lost when we look at AAA gaming. Yes, Suicide Squad is a 4-player co-op PvE game, but if you're real with yourself and you compare that one-to-one with a Helldivers or a Leth Company, go ahead and tell me which of these is more fun to play with your friends. And that right there is where it becomes increasingly more clear why some of these smaller titles are blowing up. On the launch for Suicide Squad, I dropped $70 to be able to hop in and play with my buddies, just to end up mostly bored by the gameplay loop and never even reach the end game, or lack thereof.
You see how tired, how bad that game is? Oh my god. Even the animation we kill the enemy is terrible, right? Holy shit. This is the studio that made the Arkham games. What the fuck happened, dude?
On the other hand, in the past 6 months, I have also spent that same amount of money on like 5 to 6 different smaller projects that all brought me more playtime and a heck of a lot more fun playing with my friends. I dropped $15 on BattleBit, $10 on Leth Company, $30 on Power World, $40 on Helldivers, and even $8 on Content Warning, though literally that one could have been free if I had just got on and redeemed it. All of these games combined barely cost me more than one AAA title. One AAA title that ended up being a complete dud. And right here is where I think the key to this shift in gaming and market habits is coming from. Not only are these games coming in and bringing us really fun and refreshing experiences, they also aren't that big of an investment. $10 is literally nothing. I mean, in this day and age, you can barely get a meal at McDonald's for that price,
right.
So throwing it into Steam for a chance of a few nights of fun with your friends, to me, seems like a no-brainer. And if it ends up fun, you could get a few weeks or maybe even months of fun with your buddies, but if not, like I said, it's $10 instead of $70. Now, do these indie titles...
So, here's what I've been saying too. This is definitely happening this year more than any other year. Gaming is becoming decentralized. What does that mean? It means that in a given year, you used to look at the gaming schedule and say, oh, okay, so here's the big games of the year. This one, this one, this one, this one. There'll be like 7 or 8 big games coming out in one year. And you say, these are going to be the ones everyone's going to want to play. Everyone's going to be talking about. It's going to be like a cultural experience when each of these games come out. Correct? Now you look at the gaming schedule and it's like, you just don't even know what games are going to be good. You don't know if you should get hype over a game because half the time these games that used to be tried and true, again, Suicide Squad is a great one that he picked here. That's from freaking Rocksteady. That's the studio that made the Arkham trilogy. Every game in the Arkham trilogy was a masterpiece. Even Knight, which wasn't as good, I would say, still was an amazing game. And everyone got super hyped, super excited. And then that's the next thing they come out with, this uninspired piece of garbage. And now you don't have those games anymore that are the tried and true, dependable, big releases that everyone can get hyped for. Instead, what it seems is gaming has become way more decentralized. Yes, there's good games out there, but as he's saying, they're more indie games, they're lesser known games, and then they have to blow up, like in the gaming space on social media, etc., for them to get noticed, and then they become huge. But it's not what we're expecting, nor do we even know. Did anyone really think Helldivers 2 was going to be a big game? Who would have thought that? Until it came out and became fun, drop-in fun. You know what I'm saying? And the problem is, in my opinion, I think I really learned this from the Bethesda story that I covered on my podcast a few weeks ago, that here's a perfect example. Starfield. Bethesda's making it. They realize the ending is bad or they don't have a good ending. So they need to make a different ending. And then to do the ending, they had to jump through so many hoops, so much bureaucracy, so much this department is rendering the chair, this department is doing this department is doing that they couldn't really realistically get anything done in a good amount of time. So the ending just feels like a tacked on shitty ending and really isn't an ending where there's just a gameplay loop that repeats the same shit over and over. What happened there? Do you remember other Bethesda games? Do you remember a Fallout game without an ending? Or an Elder Scrolls without an ending? Right? It's just a gameplay loop? No. The company has essentially written itself or grew itself into a corner. When a company becomes so bloated and so big that now it's more about this bureaucracy and going through levels of approval and hoops to even get a single task done, you've destroyed your company, right? You can't get anything done. So these AAA games, the budgets are so big, the development time and cycle is so long, you can't even pump out a good product anymore, and your product becomes inferior to before when you had those things. And that's what's happened. There is no more dependable game releases, right? I mean, we all thought, surely, in the last year that there would have been some big games from big studios, and there hasn't been. I mean, Microsoft bought up all these game studios. They haven't pumped out a single good game yet, right? And half the games that come out these days are so underwhelming. We're just waiting. What is the next big game we're all talking about? The Elden Ring DLC. Really? Like, that's the thing everyone's... The Elden Ring DLC. Really? So we had to wait till June? Because there are games that are good, but they're not, like, seen as universally good. Like, for example, a lot of people say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was really good. Others say, no, actually, Rebirth isn't as good as Remake, and that's why it didn't sell as well. Sales are down. There's, like, a discrepancy there. There's no, oh, it's a giant game, there's a consensus, it's really good, and everyone's playing it. That just doesn't seem to happen anymore. Instead, people are way more conservative of what they buy. They wait and see. They have this wait and see attitude. And then when a game like one of these indie darlings comes out of nowhere and everyone's talking about it, well, I want to be part of that virally popular movement. So I'm going to run out and I'm going to buy Helldivers and I'm going to see what the hoopla is all about, right? It's so different. There is no feeling of there's going to be one giant community of people playing this one giant game. It just doesn't seem to happen that often anymore. Maybe a couple times a year. Like, and it was weird because I've been talking about this, obviously, with my, oh, by the way, that's the thumbnail for the video, which is kind of cool. I've been talking about this with the audience you recently, right? That last year, in the first quarter of 2023, we had Hogwarts Legacy and we had Resident Evil 4 Remake, correct? And those two, all right, kind of were the big ones for the first quarter of 2023 that everyone was talking about. Everyone was hyped for it. And a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people played. This year, what did we have? Like, people, there were some games, but they were all over the place. Did you play Like a Dragon Infinite Well? Did you play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Did you play Persona 3 Reload? Did you play Suicide Squad? Right? Did you try Helldivers? Have you tried Rise of the Ronin or Dragon's Dogma 2? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, all these games I just mentioned all had potential that they could have been this great giant game that would have been dominant, and none of them will have been. None of them have been the dominant game of the quarter. And that's weird, because you used to always have these games that were the dominant games of a certain time period. They don't exist anymore. Instead, it's the virally popular ones. Like right here, he's showing Pal World was dominant for a few weeks to a month. Then it was on to the next. Then it was on to the next. You know, Helldivers 2 is doing well. I don't know longevity-wise, you know, how long it'll stay as popular as it is. But man, those games are dominating where all the other games are flubbing and failing. He's right in that regard. Is it because AAA studios just don't know how to make games anymore? They've become too big for their own good? It could be. Because how can you have a game whose budget is so big that your game is a sales success and you still can't make money? I mean, what did you do? You fucked up, right?
Go on to last forever. Well, as we have seen, not really.
Right.
Besides Helldivers, which has probably held its player base the best out of all the titles I've mentioned, most of these titles have hit massive hype and social media waves, hit their player base peaks that were way above what anybody could have expected, and then slowly dwindled off to a much lower, but still respectable number. But here's the thing, right? That's totally okay. While many of us would want our $70 live service game to last for many years, when it's a lower cost investment, it doesn't hurt as bad if that doesn't go on forever.
Right.
Also, let's be real, there's been plenty of $70 live service titles that are dead within a year or two anyways, so it's not like paying that premium up front really guarantees the game is sticking around. Most people are perfectly fine with getting a few weeks or a month of fun from something like Power World and then moving on when they get bored. While gaming media loves a good old X game has lost Y percentage of his players, this really isn't the huge bombshell that these games media websites make it out to be. Although, let's be real, sometimes I wonder if they even think it's much of a bombshell, or if they just write those articles because they know somebody's gonna click on it, which is a whole different issue in gaming. One of the most common comments that I see as someone who has made some Power World videos is, "Oh my god, who still plays Power World?" And in reality, it's a comment that doesn't even make sense. First of all, a ton of people. Recently, it's back over 100K with the recent update, but even if it wasn't, the game sold millions of copies and was a massive success for Pocket Pair, and more importantly, was a very fun game for all the people who enjoyed it. Does Power World get a little bit stale if you put tons of hours into it? Yeah, of course, and I can tell you that firsthand, but this is natural. Power World still sports a respectable player base today, and like I said, recently just dropped a raid, which means there's still new content for that hardcore player base who's been sticking around. But for the millions of players who put their 10 to 40 hours into the game and then kind of just fell off, there is nothing wrong with that. Maybe they'll come back for the full 1.0 release, or maybe they won't. At the end of the day, you don't need Power World to be the next Fortnite. It can just be a memory of a game that you played for a few weeks, had some good times, and then moved on to the next. I mean, hey, if it wasn't for Power World, I wouldn't have wasted money on this beautiful Depresso plush. But okay, that makes sense. These games are doing well because they are designed to just be fun, rather than ways to milk your wallet dry. But why specifically has each of these games gone so nuclear? Well, let's take a closer look. Out of all the games I mentioned, the smallest of them was BattleBit, but this is a game that I absolutely adored last year, and even though it didn't make any Game of the Year lists, was honestly one of the most fun games that I played last year. And why was that? Well, what BattleBit managed to do was bring back that casual, sit back on your couch and BS with your friends and random people style of gameplay that is sorely missed in the multiplayer FPS genre, though it is a PC-only game, so I didn't actually sit on my couch, but you get the point. I am someone who loves FPS games, and I've been playing them religiously religiously for well over a decade now, and if it's been a multiplayer FPS that had any amount of popularity over that time, I probably tried it out. And BattleBit brought back memories of exactly what all the old people like me harp on about, the good old days. I wasn't getting screwed over by SBMM, there wasn't a store with extremely overpriced skins being jammed down my throat, there wasn't a battle pass that made the game feel like a job. It was just a fun FPS game that I could just throw in and enjoy for a few weeks.
Fun and functional. In reality, that's kind of like how the old Star Wars Battlefront games were. They were just fun and functional. You jump in, you blow up a bunch of Wookiees or rebels or stormtroopers. You have a good time. That's what it was about. And then I think that's a perfect example, because when you look at the more modern Battlefront games from the 2010s, what did they try to do? Overcomplicate the formula, put in too many factors, microtransactions with a card system and all of that. And that's what made it fail. The original games were huge successes. The new version that we try to overcomplicate and make it the modern AAA formula, it fails. So you have these independent studios that aren't out to make $1 zillion because they're not putting that amount of time and development cost and effort in to make their games. And then when their games come out, they are able to be virally popular and they can actually make money because the budget wasn't so big. And they capture that spirit of fun again that a lot of modern games are missing. Makes sense.
Let some people in Prox chat have some funny moments and have a good time. Now, did it eventually dwindle off? Yeah, unfortunately the game made by 2 developers did in fact struggle to get updates out fast enough to keep everyone satisfied, and BattleBits also had a little bit of an identity crisis on what style of FPS it wants to be, between like an arcadey Battlefield style game and the more milsim style of games that it took inspiration from, but regardless, overall, slowly players began to fall off the game. But for the month or 2 that everyone was on BattleBit, bullshitting in proximity chat with their friends, I would say it was well worth the $15 that it cost, and for those developers, literally life-changing money. I might not ever return to BattleBit if we're being honest, but I can easily say that it had a notable impact on my gaming enjoyment last year.
This is another one that I've heard of, but I haven't, no one's really asked me for it or whatever.
Leth Company would see its peaks toward the end of 2024, and unlike many of the other titles in this video, it wasn't an instant viral hit, but rather a slow burn that built momentum until it hit that point. A simple, and I mean very simple, 4-player co-op game all about finding random loot while attempting to avoid scary monsters. At the core of it, there really isn't much to the game. But the variety of gameplay scenarios caused by using in-game chat and diving deeper and deeper to get that big score in the name of the good old company had us all compelled to launch it up with our buddies, very similar to the successes of Phasmophobia in years prior. Recently, this model was almost used to a T with the release of Content Warning.
Yeah, this
and while this one probably
game, right?
isn't nearly as big as Leth Company, it's a fun 4-player co-op experience, working with your friends to, in this case, take some scary videos for SpookTube, leading to, again, tons of fun moments. These moments are what is causing these games to get massive success.
Oh, look out!
And sure, just like Leth Company prior, this game isn't going to become the next huge gaming IP for years to come. But for less than that
thing. That's hilarious.
Who
Fucking
really
like
cares?
Snail Man
These simple stylized co-op games are fun, and they aren't out to wage war on your wallet. Instead, just provide a simple fun time.
Here's the thing too. I think what's happening is there's a cultural shift. At one point, for a game to be popular and a big hit, it had to have high production value, epic story. Right now, because the AAA studios are floundering, because they're not putting out that quality of content anymore, likely because they're greedy, what's happening is these small indie game companies are coming in and capitalizing on the fact that people just want games, and they're pumping out co-op experiences. The co-op experiences, a lot of the good things about it is you're having time with your friends, right? And it works. We know the formula works. How many games? Destiny and the Tom Clancy series with some of their co-op experiences. We know that this works. The co-op aspect can add to a game's enjoyment level, and it's a natural thing that comes out of the players, not from the game, right? So just throw some assets together, make sure the game holds together, have some funny moments, and you've got a game that people are going to buy, and you're going to make money on it, and you didn't just spend 7 years and $400 zillion developing it, as opposed to the company that spends that much time and pumps out Suicide Squad. Right? And they're like, wow, we really missed the mark. I mean, some of the time, the problems here is the development cycles are so long. By the time the game comes out, you already missed the fad. Like, if Suicide Squad had come out 4 or 5 years ago, maybe it actually would have been more popular. But you've had 5 years of co-op looter shooter style games. You know what I'm saying? And who cares about another one, even though it's DC branded? It doesn't matter, right? So maybe that's what it is. These games come out relatively fast. They jump on fads. They're all co-op, so you have fun with your friends. And they don't have giant budgets. This might be the real reason why these games are succeeding and a lot of other things are failing.
As long as you were enjoying it. And then when you're not enjoying it anymore, it's not going to penalize you with FOMO. It also helps that in many cases, these co-op style games lend really well to funny clips that players can share on social media. I'm sure you've seen all of these games all over whatever your social media of choice is, whether it's TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts.
They're actually, in reality, on Twitter, there's been a lot of Helldiver stuff that I've seen.
This has helped these smaller games gain insane amounts of viral momentum that wasn't possible in years prior. Just seeing clips of people having fun instead of sweating in a multiplayer title, or just staring blankly at their monitor unlocking loot in a looter shooter, laughing, screaming, trolling with your friends, it all plays together into what makes all of these games feel so special, and having people share their genuine fun on all these different platforms just helps these games gain even more momentum. I mean, when you're scrolling through and you see like 4 or 5 clips of a specific game, there's that feeling that, hey, you want to experience that game too, and that's how these games can get so big.
No, look at that
thing. Titles were stuck with more traditional marketing. You know, obviously word of mouth with people talking to their friends, or just your standard, long form YouTube videos, or regular marketing and ads and all that stuff. But there wasn't that short form content where people are just scrolling and scrolling. That those smaller titles of the past.
Here's what I will say though, because we're gonna move on. I now watched this video for 20 minutes. It's a good video. I will say this. I hope that because of what's happening this year, this does not now mean that every game is going to be this style. Because you know what's going to happen? These companies don't have any originality, right? I don't mean the indie companies. I mean the big ones, the AAA ones. So what they're going to see, oh, well, now it's all these little co-op games that are doing well. So let's just drop everything, stop making any epic story. No story needed for our games. Everyone just pump out a co-op game. And so for the next 5 years, we have to shift through 100 shovelware co-op games. I hope not. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would piss me off because I like games that have good atmosphere, good graphics, a good story, tons of elements. That's what I want. I don't want a game that I play for 2 weeks and I drop. Pal World was cool for literally 4 streams and then I was bored with it. I don't want every game that I play to be only played a few times and then dropped. There's games that I like investing time in, games that I want to get through an epic story. And, I don't want every game to now become a quick flash in the pan co-op experience, because that's what's happening now. And the AAA studios don't know what they're doing, right? That is a concern, because this is what happens in the industry, is that there's shifts. The reason that Suicide Squad became the game it did is because they wanted to do a games as a service game, because games as a service was the big buzzword among AAA companies, thinking they were going to make so much money, and it actually backfired completely, right? Okay, let's go on to the next one. I think this is a music video, actually. A Fallout music video.
Welcome to the Lucky 38. Glad you could make the trip. The crowning jewel in the oasis of the Vegas Strip. I'm Robert Edwin House, the founder of this place of rest, a haven for the wayward. That's to say, if you can pay the rent. Understand that if you try to stop my plans, you'll come to harm. I ensure that every bandit standing here has just one arm. I eschew the grandeur, built a land for all that's free from smarm. But show your hand, I'll flush you out straight down to the farm. You blunder in and wonder if a bunch of chips can run the strip. 100 twits with guns and clips have tried their luck and lost the bet. I funded it, I'm one with it, so watch your lip or run the risk. Cause if you're here to plunder it, you might just end up under it. You can hit them, you can fold them, stack the deck and wait the dice. All that glitters isn't golden. Cash that check, you'll pay the price.
This is actually, I think, old and they redid it. Yeah, see, it's remastered. I wonder when this was actually made ages ago for New Vegas, and then they just redid it or something. So it's basically like a rap video, a rap song or something.
Might be safer in the desert, only dust to judge your sins.
I like the aesthetic that it looks like you're watching it on a Pip-Boy.
To wage you aren't so clever, cause in heaven, well, the house house always wins. Place your bets, but the house always wins. House always wins. House always wins. Want to see the profits of democracy? Then go and see 'em. Across the street, a bunch of freaks are playing Coliseum. Honestly, was the world you wanted what you got to see when you were dropping crosses into boxes behind polling screens? Was dropping bombs your chosen option? Did you vote for screams? Was the apocalypse your politician's policy? Did you put stock in their preposturing and prophecy? A shining future built on squabble-free equality?
You know what's funny, though? So without spoiling, the Fallout TV show, which they're claiming is canon, actually just undermines the entire thing he just said, which is kind of funny. What's up, Game Boy? How you doing? Totally, like, because the plot of the TV show undermines or changes a lot of the lore of the Fallout universe, and specifically about how the apocalypse happened. So it's kind of interesting because, you know, how much content was made in the last 15 years on YouTube based on the things that we knew from the games, and all that's changing now, right?
That every day you'd get your plate of steak and collard greens. The human race was capable of anything but want and greed. But now that world is gone and what lived on belonged to me. That freedom you so wanted's now the cost of living comfortably. Peace is just a product with a focused test of billions, and the test was unsuccessful, so we altered its description.
Your safety now provided by the guys at Romco Services.
For one ongoing price of your unwavering subservience. Impressed, I raise the stakes, return this land to vibrance. Witness as I raise estates from mud and random violence. Business is the way to stay the bloody hand of tyrants. Convinced yet, sail and ask my buddy, Andrew Ryan.
Ah, they just freaking referenced
Head of
Bioshock.
iron, lead and wires, neon veins and ancient spires. Pump the caps and I respire. The economy is ash, I didn't light the fire. But I can always turn a profit, sweeping up the can hit them, you can
That was kind of cool, the reference to Bioshock. Anyway, yeah, it's just, it's kind of funny because, again, this is pretty good, or at least this would have been pretty good, but they already changed the lore. So now this video actually, even though it's well done, and I really like the aesthetic that it's all on a Pip-Boy. Sadly, it doesn't apply anymore. The lore was changed with the Fallout TV series. So, all right. Anyway, thank you for watching DSP versus the Internet, episode 61, part 2. I hope you're enjoying. Only got through 2 videos that time, but man, the videos were good, right? So, all right. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you want to be part of this fun, you can become a member today. Ultra members, we're guaranteed to watch your clips every week, and the submission to your members are the ones who go into the randomized playlist. So I hope that you will consider supporting the channel, and thanks to those who are supporting it and made this show possible. See you in the next part.